I'm standing outside St James's Gate, the entrance to Guinness's brewery in Dublin's Thomas Street. This is a place where, in the late 19th and early 20th century, new standards were set for the treatment of workers. But curiously, it took a long time for the place to be unionised. A new book has been published which deals with a special relationship between the Larkin family and Guinness's, and it's called The Trade Union Pint, and its author is Martin Duffy. Martin, tell us about how Guinness's was slow to unionise, but early on treated workers exceedingly well.
It's one of the interesting things that connected, Big Jim Larkin and his son, James Larkin Jr., both of whom in their turn were head of the Workers' Union of Ireland, that Big Jim Larkin brought, radical new trade unionism into Dublin, obviously leading with the lockout and so on. And yet he saw Guinness's Big Jim Larkin, but never really tried to deal with them, because Guinness's always gave the best conditions. And even within the brewery, the management of the brewery used to say, nobody will ever trade unionise the Guinness brewery, because they could no trade union could then match what they got in the Guinness brewery in other companies and other organisations, And the core of the book then was that post the Second World War, it was a different atmosphere, people had a different perspective on how they should be treated. And how the union, the impetus for a union in the Guinness brewery came not looking for better conditions, not looking for, because they had the pension, they had health service, they had better pay than most of their workers. It was to look for a voice, because the way that the union, the brewery worked was, no non-tradesman could speak to anybody higher than the foreman. Okay, so in this pyramid, there were 2,800 non-tradesmen who could only ever address the foreman, could never deal with management, could never have a say in how their working lives were run. And this was kind of like the next level of trade unionism, and it evolved into this very unexpected, quite extraordinary situation where the Workers' Union of Ireland, Larkin's Union, which was the most radical and extreme union, came to represent the best cared for and the most the most elite of workers in Dublin, in Ireland. And so the book is about how these two actually, in the end, wound up working extremely well together, and yes, the unlikely union, that they actually wound up that James Larkin Jr. and people like Jack Carruthers and Jack Hart and so on the trade union side on the ground floor, they actually wound up being friends with people like Sir Charles Harvey, one of the managing directors here, and being on first name terms with them, and genuine friendships and exchanging cards and all this kind of stuff, Christmas cards and things like that.
I must say it's different to my perception of Irish history at the time and the Larkins' relationship with management generally. But perhaps one of the ironic things about this is that tonight your book is being launched by Jack O'Connor, the president of SIPTU.
That's right, and it also is being sponsored by Diageo. So that same union is there, what I mean? The SIPTU on one side, Diageo, who are Guinness now, on the other side, and both, I think, appreciating the story. And it was a very, very special time. The book basically covers from 1945 to 1945-6, post-World War era, until 1969, by which time most of these key players were no longer on the stage, if you know what I mean. But all of a whole set of new situations have been created for the workers in the brewery. And
your book is published by, fittingly, Liberty's Press.
That's true, yeah, by Liberty's Press, who, funnily enough, when I went to them first about the book, they were here in the Liberties, in the Guinness Enterprise Centre, and now they're out in Tara, New York. But yeah, they're Liberty's Press, yeah.
I'm with Evelyn Roach, the archivist at Guinness's. Evelyn, what does an archivist at Guinness's do?
An archivist at Guinness has a very special job. What my role is and my colleague is to look after the great Guinness history that exists for the past 250 odd years, and to preserve it and make sure that it's there for the future. So we hold the original lease that Arthur Guinness signed on the brewery site right back in 1759, and then brewing records, engineering records, packaging, advertising, and importantly the records of the people themselves who built the brewery.
And that's so important nowadays, with more and more people interested in their family history, as in this case with this book called The Trade Union Pint, a unique relationship between the Larkin family and Guinness's.
Absolutely, and I suppose our records very much reflect that. And I know Martin, the author, would have done a huge amount of research with using our material, which is fantastic that all that material has survived, that he was able to research and be able to tell that story.
And I take it that you're in contact with people from all over the world, really, who have had relations working here.
Absolutely. The nature of Guinness is so synonymous with Dublin, so synonymous with Ireland, and the fact that the brewery was the largest employer within the city for several decades means that there's a huge legacy in terms of descendants of Guinness people who literally live all over the world.
And it's about the nature of employment relationships at their best, I suppose, in a sense. It's about the character of industrial relations. It's about the evolution of our economy and our society, and it's about the unique character of Guinness. It's about the relationships between the people, and it's about the vision of the leaders on both sides. Because in the case of the workers themselves, the key personalities, young Jim Larkin was a major figure in the trade union movement in Ireland, in the politics of the country, but also a player in the European trade union movement. And of course, on the management side, Guinness was one of the major companies in Europe, certainly in the UK, as it was understood. And but the book is also, most importantly, and Martin Duffy captures it. It's about the people who made the union, yes. And it's about their lives, and it's about the way these things and these people all interacted in the complex labyrinthine relationship which existed here.
And you, as a trade unionist, you're probably interested to note that it took Guinness quite a while to become trade unionised.
It did indeed, and there is a kind of a perception of Guinness, which on the one hand is true. It was a very paternalistic and on the surface good employer. It certainly intended to be a good employer and wanted to be a good employer, but the actual relationships inside the environment that was the actual society that Guinness was, which was a highly hierarchical society. Almost in the foreword to the book, Francis Devine describes it as an almost caste system, you know. But it reflected a different era. It reflected in many ways the era which prevailed when the company was founded. It was almost, in some respects, feudal in character. So here we have a very paternalistic employer, an employer who understood the value of paying good wages in material terms. Yes. But that didn't meet the human need of people, large numbers of people at the bottom of the pyramid, to have a voice and to have a capacity to influence things and to have the issues that were important to them highlighted. So I think that what the book describes is the difficulty management experienced in coming to terms with the reality that workers who were among the best paid, if not the best paid, and who had a welfare system to better the welfare state, yes. Still needed organisation. Yes. And it was about coming to terms with the reality that there is more than material things. There are the issues around dignity at work, around having a voice, the issues that relate to the importance of the human spirit.